All right, let's start. I'm still not loaded in yet, but let's go. Whoops, forgot that. Let's go. I can do that as well. The flights tonight are relatively short. I don't think it's honestly, I almost changed the plan a little bit, but GPH. Hey Nico. By the way, sorry I missed you. FedEx 121. Let's do that. But I figured we're gonna fly in all PYREEGUE sceneries. There was an update on the MD11 and also PYREEGUE released Edinburgh V2 today. So I'm very excited about it. We're going Belfast, all three sceneries from PYREEGUE, by the way, but Belfast to Edinburgh to East Midlands. And we're going to fly the MD11, of course. Check it out. I found that that's apparently takeoff procedure with ex-Concorde pilot Captain Mike Bannister.
Act out the takeoff sequence here.
Yeah. Okay, so a key element of this is to realize that it's aerodynamically different to a conventional airplane, and there are other aerodynamically different challenges. So going faster than the speed of sound, going through the sound barrier, is a physical thing. So you hear people talking about when you break when an athlete breaks a world record, you might hear the commentators say they've just run this race and broken the 3-minute 20-second barrier or whatever. That's not a barrier. It's a world record, which is great, but it's not a physical barrier. Now, the sound barrier is a physical thing. And what happens is molecules of air can only travel at a certain speed. And once you start traveling faster than the molecules can get out of the way, so if you imagine an airplane going through the air slower than the speed of sound, the molecules can get out of the way because they can move faster than you're moving. Once you start moving faster than they can move, they can't get out of the way. So all these molecules, if you like, clump together and form a shock wave. And this shock wave, that is what generates the sonic boom, also has the property that it will increase the drag on the airplane. So you actually do need to overcome the drag as you go through the sound barrier. To do that, you need really powerful engines. So that's why Concorde has 4 very powerful engines to overcome the getting through the sound barrier. They do other things, of course. They manage to keep the airplane flying at twice the speed of sound. They manage to do the takeoff, they manage to do the landing. But that's why particularly why they're very powerful. So you've got very powerful engines. Now you need to build the airplane, which is.
I hope we see.
Wing.
There's by the way, there's a company called Boom, who's currently developing, or at least trying to develop, an airliner that goes faster than the speed of sound.
Characteristics at low speed.
I really hope
as a normal wing. So you need
I
to
get
be
to
able
see
to
it.
get into the air quickly, and you need to be able to accelerate rapidly, which is another benefit of these very powerful engines. And just to add a little bit of help, what you're also going to do is you're going to bolt onto the back a reheat afterburner system to give you extra power for takeoff and for going through the sound barrier. And the reheat or afterburner system is literally as the exhaust jet comes out of the back of the engine, squirting fuel into it and setting it on fire to give 25% extra thrust. Burns a lot of fuel, so you don't use it for long. But for takeoff and going through the sound barrier, you'll also use
burned a crap ton more fuel. That's why it's not used in general.
Or to go through the sound barrier.
You really use it only when you need it.
In a conventional flight, what I'd do is I'd turn up at the airport, meet my colleagues who I all know personally anyway, maybe an hour and a half before the flight. We do the briefing, we meet the cabin crew, we go out to the airplane, We do our pre-flight checks, which start at about 1 hour and 10 minutes before the flight because it's a complicated airplane. We've got a flight engineer that looks after the technical side of the airplane. So that individual will do the walk round outside, which conventionally is done by the pilots. That's another benefit. I don't get wet. It's the flight engineer that gets wet. Then we come together with about 25 minutes to go to do the checks, which are all preordained. We have checklists. Passengers boarding.
He's talking like he's still flying it. That's kind of funny.
Talking to air traffic control to make sure that we've got the right takeoff slots and we've got clearances to go across the Atlantic. We are aiming for an on-time departure always because we are selling punctuality as well as speed. And so when we come to on time, we're going to start 2 of our engines on the stand because the airplane doesn't have what's called an auxiliary power unit.
APU.
The conventional airplane has, which would provide electrics and air and hydraulics, indeed, in some cases, to start the engine. So they've got to be started with ground power units. So we start 2 engines, we push the airplane out, and as we're pushing it backwards, we start the other 2. Then we've got 4 very powerful engines running, and we taxi out for takeoff. They're so powerful that the challenge is not to get this heavy airplane, which can weigh up to 185 tons, not to get it moving, it's to slow it down. So even with your hand, with the throttles fully at idle, so you know, in a car with your foot off the accelerator, you're still accelerating at 185 tons because the engines are so powerful. You turn around, you get your clearances, you line up on the runway, and then the handling pilot, be it the captain or the co-pilot, is going to open up the engines to full power. Now, what they're going to do is do that rapidly because we want to make sure that we are absolutely accurate in the time that we reduce that power after takeoff. Because the engines are noisy, we want to be as good neighbors as we can. So we're going to switch the reheat.
By the way, that guy explains it really well.
Over a particular place.
Quite interesting as well.
And to work out where that place is, we're going to do some timings. So the timing to get from the start of the takeoff run to that place will vary on the day, depending on the weight of the airplane, the temperature, and the wind. So we work out exactly how long it will take to get there for each takeoff. Typically out of Heathrow, 1 minute 10 to 1 minute 20 seconds. So the pilot who's flying it will open up the throttles to full power by just literally ramming them open because they're only an input to a computer. So if the pilot does that, the engines say, whoa, I can't open up that fast, but it will open up at my maximum rate. So that takes away a variable. And you will literally be pushed into the back of your seat. Even at 185 tons, you're pushed into the back of your seat as the airplane starts to accelerate. And before you know where you are, you're doing 100 miles an hour, then you're doing 150 miles an hour, then you're doing 190 miles an hour, then you're doing 210 miles an hour, which when I pull back on the control column to pitch Concorde's nose up, excuse me, you get airborne, the wheels lead the ground at about 250 miles an hour. And
Jesus Christ, yeah, I forgot about that. There's no flaps, by the way, on the Concorde. Well, there was no flaps on the Concorde, so you needed a lot more speed to actually take off.
250 knots, which is just under 300 miles an hour. And then we're going to climb, get further away from the ground. As we get further, we can open up the engines to more power and start climbing away and set course for basically Bristol. Now, we cannot fly supersonically over land, so we're going to climb to 28,000 feet. And we're going to accelerate to Mach 0.95, 95% of the speed of sound, so that which is an efficient altitude and speed to fly at, and we're going to fly at that altitude and speed until we get out over the water. So once we get to Bristol and over the Bristol Channel, then we can open up to full power and start going through the sound barrier, because it's at that point that we start generating the sonic boom. Now, the sonic boom is not a bang. What it is these molecules of air are being compressed and they're forming like a bow wave on a ship.
I don't know where Bristol is.
So they're forming a cone, this shock wave. And this cone is actually an overpressure in the air. So if the air pressure at the ground is, say, 15 pounds per square inch, we're adding about 2 to 3 more pounds per square inch to that pressure. And the human ear detects that change as a bang.
Ah, crap. Oh, screw you.
The Atlantic. We are aiming for an on-time departure always after takeoff. Because the engines are noisy, fly supersonically over land. So we're going to climb to 28,000 feet. and we're going to accelerate to Mach 0.95, 95% of the speed of sound, so that which is an efficient altitude and speed to fly at, and we're going to fly at that altitude and speed until we get out over the water. So once we get to Bristol and over the Bristol Channel, then we can open up to full power and start going through the sound barrier, because it's at that point that we start generating the sonic boom. Now, the sonic boom is not a bang. What it is, it's
I used to
these
think
molecules
that
of air are being compressed.
it's a constant thing. It's just that it goes so fast that you hear a boom.
But in 3 dimensions, so they're
But if you were to follow it, you would basically hear that boom
this
non-stop.
cone is actually an overpressure in the air. So if the air pressure at the ground is, say, 15 pounds per square inch, we're adding about 2 to 3 more pounds per square inch to that pressure. And the human ear detects that change as a bang. It's not actually a bang, it's a pressure change on the ear. So we don't want to put that over land, so we wait until we're over the water to start accelerating. To accelerate, we're going to open up the engines again to full power, switch the reheats on to push us through that high drag region. Then we're going to accelerate and climb, and when we get to Mach 1.7, Concorde could do something that no other airplane could do. We could switch those reheats off, because the engines have become so efficient, the designs are so clever, that even without reheats now, you can carry on accelerating and climbing until you reach 50,000 feet and twice the speed of sound.
50,000
Twice the
feet.
speed of sound all the way across the Atlantic. As the airplane gets lighter, you gradually drift up towards 60,000 feet. And then eventually we'll start to come down, and we work out a point to start the deceleration so that we don't throw that boom forward onto the land in the States. Once you get down below about 25,000 feet, you're like back being a conventional airplane in senses of working with air traffic control until you go onto land. As you come into land, we're faster than a conventional airplane, so we've got much stronger brakes. We can put those engines into reverse, and so we can stop on any runway that a 747 can use. We can take off on any runway that a 747 can use. In fact, we could take off and land on some runways that were too short for a 747 because of the strength of the engines. So the airplane is an absolute delight to fly. I could fly it with my fingertips throughout that entire
I
process.
really hope I get to at least see a real
And
Concorde.
they're very satisfying. You know, if you're
Which I believe there's one in the Smithsonian, I believe.
Satisfaction of flying. Really
There's one in...
safely.
Is the Captain of Concorde? No, his name... Yeah, I don't know his name. That's Mike Bannister.
It was fantastic to arrive there when you should.
Welcome in, Mick Burr.
You've had the personal satisfaction of hopefully a good landing, and it was great. Really, really good fun. And en route, in the early days, we could have the flight deck door open. Our customers would come up and chat to us. And you got to know all sorts of people, celebrities and business people, and it was really fascinating. And of course, say the cabin crew were the best in British Airways, and so they were a great bunch of people. And it was a total team game, you know, from the beginning of the whole process all the way through.
So freaking cool. By the way, I'm still
ticket sales
voting.
agents,
Hopefully that's gonna be
baggage loaders,
gonna be in very
ground
soon.
engineers, cabin crew, flight crew. Inside this massive company of British Airways, which was about 42,000 at the time that I got onto Concorde, there's only about 250 at any given time that are working on Concorde. So it's a family. We did call them the Concorde family. So you get to know most of them, and you get to know them, some of them and their families really quite well. So it was like working for a small unit inside this massive organization. And that was really a big part of the fun, not just the fun of flying this wonderful airplane, but being lucky enough to be part of that family.
It's been a pleasure hearing from you, Mike, about the Concorde experience. I said
Jesus Christ, that guy was super interesting, by the way.
That exists, but actually to get your insight on it and to share the story with you.
I'll just land in at a rate. I don't think so.
That's very kind of you
for joining us.
All right, just give me a quick second. EGAA. Oops. I believe those are the cargo. Yes, they are. Please don't crash. Please don't crash.
Yes.
I got a
It's
sim,
great to be here. It's
frozen sim
a large
earlier.
part of my life, and as you probably tell,
That's
me,
why
I'm
I'm
thinking about it.
doing
And if I
something
can
else right now.
Just inspire some young people to think about what has been done in the past and how clever people can be and how innovative people can be. Just inspire them to pursue their dream, to follow their dream, whatever it might be, and just give them some enthusiasm to achieve what is their dream. Because this little 7-year-old boy had his dream and he was lucky enough to achieve it. So I'm convinced that with a little bit of dedication, most people can just achieve their dream.
And they can come and see you.
Yeah, of course they can. Yeah.
On Concord at
Brooklands.
At Brooklands Museum. Great. Well,
great. Really pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been fun.
Wait, what? What did you say? Concord, Brooklyn, something? Oh, please don't crash. Please don't crash. I have a feeling it crashed again. Oh, you must be kidding me. Please move. When I get that, I got that like twice.
Hi, I'm Sam McAdam, and
in the past. Yeah, I think it's frozen. It's basically I need to reboot the PC. Like that's the only way I seem to be able to fix it. Yeah, I think it's frozen again. Yeah, it's definitely frozen. All right, I'm gonna stop the stream, reload, restart completely, and we're gonna be back at this time. Otherwise, like that's just I've been loading for like 26 minutes, so it's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm gonna see you in like, let's say a little bit less than 30 minutes. BRB.